Just for my cat. She likes to be brushed. If you have a cat, get like a get a brush like this. If you have a cat, and just get them used to it, and they'll like it after a while. They'll like you to give it to brush them a little gently at first. Be gentle at first, but then after a while they'll like to find out what they like too. You just hold the brush up to their face, and then they'll go in and they'll go into it how they want to be brushed. So that's who I have here with me. She's with me here when I brush her. Don't be shy. People want to see you. Don't be shy. Okay. All right. Yeah. The CenturyLink. They've raised my bill again on my internet. It's like CenturyLink. It's like every 3 or 4 months they raise the price. I don't know. Maybe I'll go with T-Mobile or Verizon or Comcast. But I don't have the 5G wireless Verizon here, though. I don't live in the right zip code for that. But I do have I think I could get T-Mobile and I could get but they're not 5G. Yes, that's the thing. But Comcast is the other choice I have that's reasonably. Yeah, it's. I started out with CenturyLink at about $55 a month, and then it went to 60, and then it went to 65. Then it's like they kept raising it, and I was thinking, well, I get good service. There's no like brownouts that often, Just all of a sudden, I don't lose my internet that often. When the internet does go down, it's usually during a thunderstorm, and then when my Tacoma power service goes out, that's when I lose internet too. So if there's a power outage that's in my area, I'll lose internet. That's the only time. But other than that, CenturyLink's been pretty good. I've been happy with their service. But dang, they just keep raising the prices. They don't let you know. They don't say we're going to raise your price. All of a sudden, I have auto payment, so it's just it goes into I pay the bill automatically out of my checking account. So that's a lamp there. I keep like an old piece of cloth over it, so that it's not so glaring. But I don't know. I made private all those little short videos, most of them that were Pixverse and AI generated imagery from Chat GBT, text to image, and then some of them were that, and then I bring them into Pixverse and animate them, and some of them were the good ones were done on Pixverse. The quality ones were done just exclusively with Pixverse. But I like different. I like to try different styles. In Pixverse, they only give you one default kind of. Pixverse. If you're good at writing, right, and you have a good imagination, everybody out there should try it. It's so easy to do. I mean, I wanted to just. If I made any money, and I started to get a lot of views, I was getting a lot of views on those, and I'm thinking, what if? Obviously, this is a not-for-profit channel. Started out that way. It was a non-profit, and so, and I'm paying a lot of money too. The Pixverse is you get 1,500 credits, and it's $5, and then that's $5 every time, and then there's Chat GBT, that's $5 a week, which does other things too. It'll write letters for you, or it'll write an email for you, and that AI stuff. But AI, it's from somebody that's gone to school and had art classes. I've had life drawing classes. I've had drawing classes. I've had watercolor instructions on using watercolor paints and using an airbrush and using um, design, how to design composition, and that in art, basic color theory, and that in school. And I've done hand drawings, and I know how hard it is to make a drawing from doing it, to how much determination and self discipline it takes to actually make a sketch, to create artwork and finish it. Right? I know how much trouble it is, and how exhausting it could be. Just you have an intent, you have to really, really commit yourself to being attentive to what you're doing, and do it, and perfect it. It's like any other skill or talent. But when when you cheat at art, which is AI, you're cheating. It's cheating, because AI, the Pixverse is okay. This is what I'm thinking about. Here's a guy. Here's a Santa Claus. It looks like so and so, with elves around him. Here's the Pope, and he's got this other face in him, and it's like really dumb. It's just like dumb ideas. You have a stupid, silly idea in your head, and you just explain that dumb idea that you have in your head, right? And it's like I'm sure a lot of other people, I'm sure many other people have already used this software and created most of these images that I've already created, that I made private. So, but what I'd like to do, especially like the ones that are on heaven and hell, those ones, and the angels and that, and the graveyard with the spirits coming out of that. What I want to do is I want to take each individual short movie, and like rearrange it like as a storyboard, right? So I'll have like, so I was going to have like the person, they die, right? So it was going to be an individual dies, and then they experience, they come out of their grave, and there's an angel with a trumpet, like on the tarot card, that's where I got the idea from. These aren't my ideas. They're just other ideas combined together. So the tarot card, where you have the symbolic angel Gabriel blowing the trumpet down from the sky, and there's people of all ages at a cemetery rising up from their graves, physically, actually physical bodies coming out of their graves, with the angel blowing a trumpet. So I got that idea. Then there was like the there was like the hellscapes too. Okay, somebody's bad, and they're a bad person, and they get judged, right? There's a god, or a god figure it judges them, and they go to a bad place, and there's like a cave, and it's on fire, and there's these hooded ghoulish demons there that have whips, that are slaving. They're in chains, and their souls are slaves, and they're going into hell. And there's a big demon, and he's on fire, and he's in the like on a throne in hell, right? He's reigning in hell. So then you have those people, and then there's other people that are good people, that go to a beautiful place. They see Jesus with a unicorn, and in a waterfall with a rainbow, and there's gates, heavenly gates. There's other people milling about, and they're all wearing nice clothes, and they're happy, and they're youthful, and they're going through these beautiful gates, and there's angels in the sky. And then there's like a war. There's like a heaven, right? There's a place in heaven where there's like these winged, genderless people that are flying around, and there's a main winged guy, the biggest winged one. He's flying around, and there's a god figure, like little Middle Eastern looking, sitting in a chair with white beard and white hair, and like heaven, what you would imagine, what the Bible and what so many people have told me since I was knee high. This is heaven. You're going to be wonderful gates. There's going to be playing music everywhere. Blah 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 blah. The whole thing, the myths, the whole mythology of the heaven, the God, and that, and that's what I was trying to describe, that, right? And then there's a war in heaven, and then the big angel, Archangel Michael, he fights Lucifer and kicks him out of heaven, throws him down, and there's smoke. There's a fiery volcano with smoke, and then there's and then one of them was Zeus. He's on a mountaintop, and he's lightning is coming from he's his muscular Greco-Roman Zeus character on top of a mountain, right, with armor on, and he's holding his lightning is coming out of his hands, and he's holding his hands out like he's a god, right, on top of Mount Olympus. So I had that imagery. That's so many. It's like, it's not that. I think a lot of people want that. They kind of want to see that heaven and gates in heaven, and people like in a beautiful place with big rainbow and waterfall, men sitting like really uh, like holy people around, right? Really holy people around, and um flying in the air, with wings, that sort of thing. So, but it was the Pix verse. It it created those images the way it wanted to. It created those images, and it showed them in its own way. I didn't describe that to that detail. I didn't put a lot of detail in the description. I was just a very generalized, vague description of what I wanted, and it created that for me. So I don't even credit. I don't take any credit. It's not even, you can't take credit for it. It's just a bunch of stock images. There's a huge library of stock images, and it's just, you're just telling that, okay, take these stock images and put them into a composition in together and make them this a scene. Create a scene from all these images, and it pulls them from an archive and it puts them together. And that's what the AI is doing. You're not. It's so the actual effort involved, and the production value, and how much time and work and effort you put into it. I put into making these AI generated imagery, and the shorts of that was such a minor amount. It's a joke, because it was so easy to do. And I think what I want to do is, I want to create it I want to create a heavenly, like the heaven scene in a sequence. Okay, somebody dies, they get resurrected, they go to the gates of heaven, they get judged. There's others that are going to these hell realms, and then the other one goes to the good place, where there's people flying around clouds, and there's angels, and there's a holy being there on a chair, right, and a throne. That's like the god imagery, all that. And then, or maybe even just make everything Creative Commons, because the whole channel was nonprofit to begin with. So all of that should be just Creative Commons. And if somebody wanted to copy it and reuse it, then they could, So I would say, I would encourage anyone out there to go and experiment with the AI image generating. Don't be. To me, it kind of freaked me out. It freaked me out. It made me think, oh my gosh, this is like, if I'm this average person, I don't, I'm not really an artist, right? And I'm just an average person, and I have just my phone, a cheap phone, and a Chromebook, right, with internet connection, and I can make these kinds of images, right, with just not that. It's not costing me a lot. It's costing money, but it's not that a lot. And I'm wondering what major studios, and like these big multi-billion-dollar networks, and movie film studios, what they can do, right, with the same kind of software, only more, have a high-end desktop computer with, like, you know so see, she likes this, but I got to be careful, because I was doing it too hard, and she scratched me. She got mad at me and scratched me. I'm laying in bed, and I'm laying here, and I'm sleeping, and I'm worried about her getting mad at me. She get mad at me, she come and attack me at night, but she hasn't done that since. I had a cat do that to me once. My wife and I, we were living in a tiny little apartment in Hillsboro, Oregon, and I just got a job there, and we moved in, and she saw a cat outside it. She says, "Okay, we'll grab it." It was just like a juvenile cat. So we grabbed it and we brought it inside in our little apartment there on Oak Street, Southeast Oak, Hillsboro, Oregon, 1990. And the cat, like in the middle of the night, that cat, it just jumped on my face. It just clawed me, like started clawing my face. It jumped on me and I was like, it wanted to go outside really bad. And I was mad and I took it, I threw it against the wall and then I opened the door and I could let it go run away. But I just reacted. It was like the cat got at me. I was asleep. The cat came at me and when I was sleeping and started clawing my face like this, right? And I grabbed it like that and I threw it away from me. Immediately, like I reacted, right? I didn't think, oh, I just should pull it away and let it. It was going, well, why haywire on me? And then I let it out and we never saw it again. But then another cat came by that looked a little bit like that in the same litter. I think it was a different cat. We eventually adopted him, Mouser. That was the name of that cat. And we had Mouser, and then my wife. I just bought a new car. I bought a brand new 1990 Geo Metro 2-door coupe, little 3-cylinder car. I bought it brand new off the lot. So my wife and I were going on the weekends. We take driving trips around Oregon, around Portland and northwestern Oregon, down the coast. And so we were leaving one day, and there was this dog. It was all matted, had real long, matted, dirty hair, little scruffy dog. And my wife, we were leaving. We were getting in the car ready to go. She saw the dog there wandering around on the street with hair in front of its face. We wondered how it could see where it was going. So she grabbed that dog and put it in the apartment. And I think we left him in there for an hour. We came back and she got him, we bathed him, we put him in a bathtub and bathed him really good, and she cut his hair, or we cut his hair. He was a Lhasa Apso, or a collie or terrier, collie, Lhasa Apso. Kind of looked like that dog in Don't Eat the Daisies. If you see that TV show, Don't Eat the Daisies, there's a shaggy dog in that, and it was shaggy. This dog had hair that was just all long, matted hair everywhere in its body. We ended up cutting it to all short. It was a little cute little puppy poodle dog. It was a nice, sweet little dog, and we took him on trips with us to different places in the car. We used to go to Hag Lake together there up near Forest Grove. We go to Hag Lake, and the dog would we'd let him out, and he'd run along the shoreline of Hag Lake, and he'd chase birds, and he'd go swimming in the water. He really loved the water. This dog. He's definitely a water dog, a swimming dog. You never met him. This cat, I've had this cat before my wife passed away. We got this cat. She was a scrapper. She was feral. She was almost feral. We got her when I got her. Yeah, so because she was outdoors, wandering around outdoors. She didn't really have a home. She was a neighborhood cat, but I don't think somebody should have brought her in if they really wanted this cat. My wife, I found out why this cat was an outdoor cat in the beginning. She was an outdoor cat. Somebody else had her before me, and what she would do when I first got this cat and I wanted her to be an indoor only cat, I'd bring her in the house, and then she'd go up to the door and cry. Wander back and forth around where the doorknob was, and she go to the other door and she cries. She go up to the door, and then I have a little cat toy, and I try to play with her with a cat toy in the house, and she she lunged at me and like started like going freaking out and trying to claw me like when I approached the door. Like, she was standing at where the doorknob is. She'd be like rah, rah, crying and looking up at the doorknob, and then I'd walk up to the door, and she'd race towards me and start clawing at me because she wanted to go outside, right? And she was mad at me because I didn't let her outside. But after a while, I'd play with her while she was doing that. I'd hang a string thing from the door, get a little bell with a feather, and get a little thing with a long stick with a little thing on the end, and I'd play string with it on this piece of string and that with her yarn. And I'd roll a little plastic ball around with a bell in it, and she finally learned that she wanted to go outside because that's normally where she was. Right, when I found her, she lived outside. But she got used to being inside. Now she's happy inside. I give all her toys are inside, her water dishes, her she gets food whenever she wants. I let her. She sleeps on the heating pads by the window. She can look out the window and lay and sit and sleep on her heating pad there. She likes that. So this side of the bed is her side of the bed. I have a real soft blanket over here for her to lay on. So if I roll around, she get mad because I'll change positions. She don't like that if I move around, and then she jumps off of me. But she has a place over here she can sleep, and I won't bother her. She knows that too. I really wasn't going to make any more cat videos on this channel because somebody called they called the authorities on me for animal abuse. Right? Somebody accused me of abusing a cat. So I was like, oh, I better not do any cat videos on this channel. But I know what the hell. If somebody calls the cops, and I have all of my veterinarian receipts that I from taking these from going to the vet, right? And paying veterinarians, Even animals that weren't mine. Even my girlfriend, she had two um, basset hounds, and she had her service dog, which was a blue heeler. And I told her I'll pay for the dog food. I'll pay for vet if you need to take the dogs to the veterinarian. I'll pay for that. And they were old dogs. They were getting sick, and they weren't doing well. They weren't thriving, and so we took the dog to the vet in Sumner, a 24-hour, 7 days a week, one of those vets, like an emergency room veterinarian for cats and dogs or animals. I took them there, and they examined the dog. They gave him antibiotics. They gave him X-rays, and they gave him something else for digestion. And the dog didn't get well. Right, the dog kept getting. It wasn't getting up and going to the bathroom. It just wanted to lay there, and so we brought it back the next day, which I think was a mistake. I should have left it there overnight. I was in a relationship with this person, and it didn't work out. We're just like, even though we were physically attracted to each other, we had that we were she was, she liked me and that way. And but as far as like our worldview and our diet and and personal habits like that, she was a smoker, cigarette smoker. She wanted me to go to church with her. She wanted me to go to this evangelical church. And yeah, I didn't want to. I was like, to me, I went there, right? I went to this church, and to me, I know it's bullshit, right? I know religion is bullshit. It's made up. It's just like a fairy tale, right? The Christianity of the common people, of what people think Jesus and God and the heaven and all the hell and all that, it's just a fantasy. It's a story, right? It's like old time religion is just an old time comic book. It's just theater that's for the common people, for the commoners. It's theater, and it'd be entertainment and amusement, and like lessons of life and fables. And um it's not only that, there's like Aesop's fables, right? And there's the Greco-Roman and Egyptian religions, and there's Zoroastrians, and there's Hindus. So it's just that when you're a little kid and all the adults around you are telling you about Jesus and about the God the Father and about the how the God's people had to get, you see the movie The Ten Commandments, right? And you get, oh, the Ten Commandments, and that's kind of the imagery that your mind holds on to for whatever you think about the Old Testament. You think about that movie with Charlton Heston. Well, I do, at least, the Ten Commandments. So, and we had a children's Bible that had all of these paintings in it, of God. So the Book of Genesis, they show God flying over the ocean with a triangular cap, and he's holding his arm out, and there's white flowing hair, and then the sea is like all waves, right? And there's a storm. It's a stormy cloud. The God is flying over the water with this other whatever angel's there, and he's flying over the water, and he's creating the creation story, right? So the children's Bible had these paintings in it. It had like uh, when David slew Goliath, and 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 David, he sends out, he sees Bathsheba, and he falls in love with her while he's watching her take a bath, and she's married to that general who's in the army, that David's the king. And so David, out of just out to get him away from her so he could have Bathsheba for himself, he sends he sends her husband out to the front line during a war, right, to get rid of him. So that was like, was another thing there. So the Bible isn't like, I don't diss the Bible for its not having any value. I don't say, oh, this is junk, right? This is stupid. I think what people take it out of context. That's what's stupid, is they don't see, okay, it was 2,000 years ago. There was no print, no radio. There was no, people didn't write books. There wasn't, reading and writing was not common to all the people around. There was only like certain people that knew how to read, and then out of those, that people that could write too, or fewer. And put your imagination and go back in time, and when you read the Bible and you read stories in the Bible, you read teaching what Jesus said. Imagine going back in time and being there and having and seeing that happen. But but with your scientific understanding that you have now, your modern mind, if you were to just go back into, if you were to, we were able to go back in time and witness what happened in the Bible, what was written about, you would immediately think, you would go, oh, that's people exaggerated, or people like, they wanted a story, they wanted a neat story that people would be interested in. So there was a guy, he was a fisherman, and he could talk to the winds and the rains, he could make it stop stormy, and when he said throw a net over, but they fish all day long they fished. And then they said, oh, we're fishing all day long, and and we haven't caught anything. And then he goes and he gets on the boat, right? And all of a sudden he says, throw your net over there, and they throw their net over there and they catch all these fish. Well, what happened was, well, he's a smart person. He knows about fish, right? And what fish like, and how fish behave, right? These are people that all their life they've been watching fish, right? Studying fish and see how they, where they live and how they swim and what they do. And so he goes out there with his with a bunch of, with something he had in his tunic, probably he had a, like some chum, right? So Jesus had a bunch of chum hidden away in his tunic, in his sleeve somewhere, and he went out and he threw it in the water, out way out. So like he threw a bunch of chum in the water, right? And the apostles were there. Oh, we haven't caught any fish all day. So they, all of a sudden, all the fish are there. They throw a net out and they catch. Sure enough, they bring all those fish into the net, and and then it's made to be like that was a miracle, right? Oh, that was something supernatural happened, but it really wasn't. I mean, it's told that way, and I think all the miracles and all the everything that's anything supernatural in the Bible was just some natural event that they didn't know scientifically how to explain it, so they made up a story, right? But a thunder a thunder was sounded like somebody talking, right? I've heard thunder before, and it sounds like somebody talking or somebody yelling, or like way far away, like they said something. So in ancient times, if somebody saw lightning and they heard the thunder, then that's God talking, right? God's on the mountain talking, right? So there's these events that happen. There's pillars of fire. What is a pillar of fire? It's a volcano going off, obviously, right? To the modern person, if you see the water recedes from the Red Sea, all of a sudden it's dry land, and the Israelites were able to cross over into the Mount Sinai area, right? They were able to get out of Egypt because there was no water, and then all of a sudden all water comes back. What is that? It's a tidal wave, obviously, right? Probably there was a big earthquake. Maybe those volcanoes going off, but there was a bigger, and it made that, so that happened. It probably happened more than one time too. I'm thinking there was probably several exoduses. It probably happened. There was one exodus, and then there was another one, and then fewer people went first, and then there were people that were leaving. Were there was there was rumors of the people that had left before. Oh, they left and they went to a better place, and they have their own farm now, and they're raising goats, and they're not having to be slaves anymore. And so the rumor came by, and then there was another earthquake, right? And then so they made a story about it. Oh, there was a god, and he cursed the firstborn, and people got plagues, and they got sick and died. And but they got certain instructions about hygiene, so they were able to survive the diseases and that. So there was stories made. There was like proverbs. There's parts of proverbs that are wisdom that's told to younger people about being careful, being prudent, and not uh, live as a drunken, or so there was, in scare tactics too. They made up a hell to frighten people so that they would listen and obey. So they told them, oh, if you don't, you're going to go to a hell place forever. Yeah, there are areas of like something happened and it was told over and over again in stories, you know, and then it was finally written down, when they got parchment and somebody knew how to write. It was the stories were written down, but they didn't happen exactly like that. There was probably like a flood, probably many different times it flooded all for everywhere. That people, some people had a memory and they knew from what their grandparents told them about floods. It happened. There was a big flood, and so it's still in their head. Wow, my grandfather, he told me about a flood that happened a long time ago. So I'm going to build a boat, and I'll just have a boat here just in case it gets to be like it's like the way he described when it wouldn't stop raining too. So I'll build a boat and I'll have it ready, and then people didn't know and they were laughing at him, oh, ha, ha. And then it flooded. So that may have happened. That may be a generic story. Yeah, there's other places in there's like evidence from space of a large asteroid or comet hitting the ocean and making a wave go over inundate the land. There's geographical features that are seen from space on certain photo in certain areas of the world that show like a ripples over the land from an impact from a wave being waves inundating the land. But people in the biblical times that were telling stories there were orators. They were they would make bards. There were long epic tales of battles, tales of travels, tales of giants, um, and super beings and that angels and that. So they made up stories, and it was a way to entertain too. If people didn't have any way to be entertained, there was somebody there that could tell stories that listened to their old people when they were younger and heard all the stories from them, and then they were able to tell those stories too. So don't the images that I've made, those other videos that I made that I made private, I'm going to make that into maybe eventually I'll make it into one long film. And I don't know, it's just like an experiment is what it is. It's like that I just said, it's experiment. And it kind of freaked me out. I was getting ideas, and it was it was reinforcing something in me. When I was doing that, I'd see it, and it was like it would be like a boost to my ego or whatever. It was a weird thing. So I don't know if I'm going to keep doing that. If I do that, it'll be Creative Commons. So the next, I'm going to try, if I repost those, they'll be Creative Commons. So anybody can just copy them. I don't know. What should I do? Huh? Been on here for 30 minutes and I'm lonely. I'm lonely. But I have a cat with me. She's all right. She keeps me company. We've been watching Furball Farms and Burger King and Paul Dinning, and there's some other channels that I like to watch. There's a guy, he sits with dogs in the dog kennel. Like there'll be a dog that they'll cat like the somebody will turn in a dog to the dog pound, and he'll go and sit in the kennel with the dog and try to get the dog to be friendly so it'll be more adoptable by people. I've been watching him, and then Furball Farms too. She likes Furball Farms. You like Furball Farms? This is why it's good to brush your cat too, because now see that, see all this here from the, so instead of her licking herself and getting that, swallowing that, so I get it off of her. So I got all these air filters on in my house. Just put it. You know what I'll do is I'll take this and I'll put it outside for the birds. They make nests out of it, so I don't throw it away. Birds or birds or critters can get it, make nests out of it. You had enough, huh? Shut it off. Yeah, the ideas of biblical gods and angels and what happens after you're dead and then you come back. There's angels and there's heavenly gates, or there's places like hell, or there's demons. That's just a story, right? That's like bullshit. It's just a cartoon. It's just a cartoon, and it's not real. We don't. Yeah. I'm not afraid of what's going to happen when I die, but I'm concerned about how I affect the world with the way I live, how I affect other people and animals. If I live and I'm careful about how I live, that I don't cause harm or cause unnecessary suffering to happen to others, or if I live and I can prevent suffering too, if I can live a certain way as to cause civilization to be better because I was here. So even though I'm not going to get any credit for it or be remembered for it, but whatever I do while I'm alive, it'll have a long range consequence. The consequences of what the decisions that I make will be beneficial into the future and not harmful. And it's like, well, I'm selfish. I'm a vegan for selfish reasons, right? I'm a vegan because I want to have a clear conscience. I want to feel good about myself. Um, that at least I my compass heading, right? I'm at least trying to follow like a compass, the guidelines in my I've made guidelines for myself to a standard for me to live by, that's a higher standard, that's above the law and kind of a, I wouldn't say beyond the law, but be past what's just the basic requirements for obeying the law. So if you obey the law, if you just do anything you absolutely want to do, as long as you obey the law, the state, the laws of the land, then to for the public and most people, that's okay, right? But if you're a good person and you want to be a better person, you're you live you have higher laws that you follow personally, that 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 don't apply to everybody. But if everybody did that, went by those laws, the world could be more pleasant for more people. If more people went and lived that way, could it be that more there would be like if you have a lot of money, right? That's the thing. I'm going to get into this now. That's if uh, I don't know. I don't know if I should talk about this. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not a life coach. I don't have any degrees in psychology. Uh, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a medical doctor. I didn't graduate from a theological seminary. I don't have any training in laboratory work with working around electronics and physics, doing uh, civil engineering. I don't have any real expert. I'm not an expert at any one thing. Very generalist. I'm not even a generalist. I'm the average person. I'm just above average, maybe most of the things. The thing is, I remember about reading about in the paper about so and so. They traveled to the far reaches of the world, and they've like helped people dig wells in their village and made bring water, and they've like helped them build fences and plant their crops and rebuild their homes, and people that have done like really noble things, right? Where they've sacrificed their time and their effort, and they've gone somewhere to some poor country and they've helped somebody that is not as educated in that, and it, they get like a lot of accolades for that. They've gotten a lot of notoriety. Somebody that was prominent in the media brought attention to that person and made them like famous, and exonerated them, right? So there's people like hearing about people like that, and they were like, these are the people that will like when they die, they'll just instantly go right to heaven, right? If there is a heaven, they'll be like in paradise, right? Because of the way they live. And then there's like people that are like really bad, that they lived a very lavish, and they had a lot of opportunity when they were younger. They were from a very wealthy family that they're evil, right? But they chose to be evil. They could have been good, but they chose evil. So there's maybe a spectrum of good and evil. Maybe there's evil that's like had many opportunities to be good. They were exceptionally well built. They had really good genetics. They were very smart. They had the access to a lot of good education and physical fitness and training, and they had the best coaches, and they ate really well. Their diet was really really good and nutritionally, and they had like uh, if they made a mistake, or there was uh, they had all these opportunities, but they chose to be evil instead. So there's going to be maybe judgment will be harsher for those that could have, or that had more opportunities, than somebody that, let's say, they grew up on the street where there was a lot of gangs, and it was a really harsh place, and they had to be tough, and they learned to be a really tough kind of criminal that was like that fought and robbed and stole. But they learned they had to be that way when they were younger. They were just that way. It was too easy for them to fall into that way, to live that kind of way for them. So you can't really hold them as much accountable, right? For somebody that turned bad, that could have been a good person. That So maybe Judgment Day. I'm thinking of Judgment Day because that's what I was thinking about when I was making those movie clips. Was that how is a God going to judge anyone based on their criteria, right? How would you be fair and judge somebody in a fair way if you knew that they became that way because of circumstances, right? They didn't, which it's bullshit because it's determined, right? That's what's bullshit about religion. There's not no choice anywhere. No one's choosing. It's all determined. So if there were a God that was doing this, it was judging somebody and then deciding to them to go somewhere where they were going to be punished, not only just punish, not to reform them, but to show an example and punish them forever, for eternity. There wouldn't be that. It was a God that would know. It was a determinist, a God that knew the universe, that from inside out, that made it. It would know it was determined. It would be Laplace's demon. Laplace's demon knew the whole, knew every event that happened that led to the cause, that led to the effect, that led to the cause effect, cause effect, cause effect. The Laplace's demon knew that all the details of reality, to where it would know, determine, it would be God, the God point of view would know that every being didn't decide to be that way on their own accord. They were led, they were forced by circumstances to become the way they are. I think, right? Really, in reality, that's the way it is. It's determined, right? Your atoms are doing what your atoms are doing. They're forced to do what the atoms are doing right now because of where you are, how you got to be where you're at, what your influences, all the influences that influenced you to make this, for you to make your thinking the way it is now, the way your body is, your genetics, all that. There's so much that's determining who you are. And for some, at the end, when you're dead and somebody wakes you up, and then you get reviewed, all the things you did, you get reviewed, and then you're judged on that. Well, it's stupid, it's unfair, because you didn't decide to become who you are. It was all, you're a little person inside of you that's being pulled along. You're being dragged along. The waves of the world are forcing you here, forcing you there. Circumstances, your family, your upbringing, the schools you went to, the physical things that, you got hurt when you were younger. If you didn't, things happened to you. You had to do something. Something happened to you when you were traumatized. It So I don't know. Maybe if you knew better and you were given the chance to change and you didn't reform, you're really gonna hurt. You're really just hurting yourself, right? If you can't face your own, see, that's, if you have a conscience, right? If you're somebody that has a conscience, you're not a solipsist. If you have conscience and you're not a solipsist, then I was watching the show about these brothers in Hollywood, the monsters. It was called something monsters. It was on Netflix, and they were wealthy, two wealthy young brothers, right? Growing up, and it was weird. They killed their parents to get the money, right? So they ended up murdering their parents, and they tried different ways to cover it up. And detectives caught on, and found out that they were the ones, because they were like, everybody was real nice to them, because it's like, people are real nice to other people if they have money, right? If they're really wealthy, it was kind of like, I got that impression, like, oh, they're nice, everybody's nice to them because they have so much money.